Okay, welcome to another video. So today I thought, since I'm talking a lot about my trip to Japan, I didn't emphasize enough. I think that I went on my own, and for some people this is quite a big deal. So I thought, why not make a whole video just talking about the benefits of traveling alone? And maybe I can share my experience because I feel like that's what works the best when I hear other people going through their different journeys. And maybe I can inspire a little bit some other people to start traveling solo, because I think it's one of the things that I'm most proud of. And when I explain this to people, they are kind of like impressed or even jealous. So I don't want to sound pretentious, but for me, I feel like now it's not a big deal because I've been doing it for a long time. So if I can help some people, that would be awesome. So this is the goal of this video. I went to Japan for 10 days and I did it completely solo, and I'm super proud. But before going to Japan, I also did lots of solo trips, but in Europe. And I think that was a very good way to start. And I didn't spend that much time because it's in Europe and I used to live in Barcelona. So traveling from Barcelona to Europe, it was really, one, affordable, and two, quite easy. So any weekend that I had some extra day, I would just go somewhere, and I really, really loved it. But now for Japan, it was a completely different story because it was another continent. It was 10 days, not just one weekend. So I had to mentally prepare a little bit more. In general, I'm quite independent and I like doing whatever the fuck I want, and that's how I live my life. But when I travel, I guess you have to consider some things that you don't think about on your day-to-day life. But the first thing I want to mention is that people will help you if something happens. Like, okay, we're traveling, we are not going with any friends, with any people that we know, but still people, I want to think at least that people are good in general, and if you are struggling with something, they will help. And I have a couple of examples. When you travel on your own, people can really see it, especially when you are at the airport with this big bag and maybe you're a bit lost and stuff. They can really see that you are struggling a little bit and that you are solo. So it's not uncommon for people to come and ask if you need help. And for example, I remember when I think it was in France. French people, they say they are not the kindest, but I had a really nice experience because I was at the airport and I was supposed to go to the city center. It was not the main airport, it was a bit far away. But basically, long story short, I didn't have any cash because I'm really bad at this, and I think that everything you can pay with credit card, and it's not the case. You need cash, especially when you go to places that you don't know how it works. Like, this is basic, but for me it's a bit difficult. But yeah, I needed cash to get into the bus, and it was one of the only buses that you can take. There was no other options. I guess you can pay a taxi, but taxi is really, really expensive. So I wanted to take the public transport, and they just accepted cash. It was quite late. It was one of the last buses that it was running that night. And I was standing there in the bus station thinking that I had the cash that I needed, but I did not. And when I was about to go in the bus, I was like, oh, can I pay with card? They were like, no. And how much is it? I think it was €2 and I had €1 or something like that. And I was like, oh, I don't have it. What can I do? And they're like, we cannot help you. And he was not speaking English. That's also another big thing. So I couldn't explain myself. But luckily someone there was like, oh, I can pay you for the ticket. And that's it. He didn't ask for anything in return. And that was really, really nice. And of course, I offered to pay via bank transfer or Revolut or whatever. But he was like, no, you're good. Just sit and relax. And I thought that was super, super nice, because usually when people do something, they expect something in return. But in this case, he just wanted to help because he was super nice. And I think this is I don't know, admirable. And when someone does this to me, then I feel like I want to help someone else. So I don't know. It was really really nice. Yeah, another thing is that mistakes happen. Like it's completely okay to get the opposite train, go into the opposite direction, or not take the right exit, or buy in something that you thought it was something else and you were mistaken. I don't know. A lot of things happen, but luckily, if you did a mistake, you can fix it. Let's say you are in the airport, you're trying to go to the city center, but you took the opposite direction. You just go down on the next stop and take the right direction. So I feel like there's a lot of things that people are scared about that are really, really easy to fix, to solve. So I would say mistakes are gonna happen. So just go with it, roll with it, and try to solve it as soon as possible. But let's not stress about it because it's not important. Absolutely everything that you do can be fixed later on. So don't stress about these little silly mistakes. One of the things that I enjoy the most when I travel solo is the freedom that it gives me. Because if I travel with my friends, with a group of people, of course they are my friends and we are alike in some way or another. But of course we're also not alike in some other things. So it's really easy to just disagree on some stuff. When you are on your own, you can do whatever the hell you want. And I feel like that's gives you a sense of freedom that I don't experience a lot, because of course on my day-to-day life I try to do whatever I want, but I have to go to work, I have to go to school. If I'm going to school, I want to go to the gym. So there's kind of like this routine that is established. But when you are in another country, you have complete freedom to do whatever you want. And that's really empowering, because if you feel like sightseeing, you can do that. If you feel like stop and eating, you can do that. If you feel like going to the hotel and just relax, you can do that. And with a group of people, I feel like you have to think about this planning a little bit more. But when you are solo, you just do whatever you want. And I really like it. This is one of the things that I enjoy the most when I travel solo. Just not planning much. Of course I plan a little bit, but is not the same at all as when I go with friends or with other people. And also, since I have a lot of freedom, I feel like this also helps to be even more independent and more autonomous. And then when I go back to my day-to-day life, I feel like I don't want to say better, but I feel like I gain some skills that maybe other people don't have. And then when I get in some kind of problem, maybe it's easier for me to solve it because I experienced some other issues on my own. And of course I had to fix it myself. There was no one else that I could ask for help. So then on my day-to-day life, I feel like traveling on my own helps quite a lot, because being so independent, you don't rely on a lot of people and you just fix the things solo on your own. If you travel alone and it's just for a weekend, let's say 3-4 nights, I feel like it's completely fine. At least personally, I don't need to talk with a lot of people. I don't have this urge to connect and to have a conversation. But when it's 10 days, like for example when I went to Japan, I needed to talk with someone. And I'm not the most social person, but even if you're not, I feel like every now and then in a 10-day trip, it's nice to talk with someone. And of course I was talking with people at restaurants, people are at stores. If I'm asking for directions, that's a lie, I didn't ask for directions at all. But you know what I mean, like really short conversations, I was doing that. But I was missing a little bit like a long conversation, like talk about how your day was, or meeting someone for the first time and being with them for at least like an hour or two. So I needed that connection. And in my case, so it was a 10-day trip, and when it reached a week, when I was on the 7th day more or less, this need to connect was more urgent, like it was more strong. I could really feel it. So I'm like, okay, there's ways to meet people. Like I guess social people just go to bars or restaurants or whatever and talk with strangers. With me, that's a nightmare. I would love to be one of those person, but for now I'm not one of those people. So what I did is downloading some apps because that's how I meet people. And with the apps, you never know what's gonna happen, what are the other people's intentions. But in this case, it worked out perfectly because I found this really nice guy and we just went. It was supposed to be just going for a drink or going to eat something, but we spent quite a lot of time together. And now it's really cool to say that I've traveled to Japan and I have a Japanese friend. It's not like we're talking every day. I'm not gonna pretend like we are besties, but every now and then, if I think about him or something happens, I'm like, okay, let me ask him how is he doing, or send him a picture. So it's also really nice to know that you have friends a little bit all around the world. In my case, not because I traveled, but because it happens that I'm in a really international place, talking with lots of international people. So it's nice, like going somewhere and having a friend from there. Because now next time if I go to Japan, I will definitely text him and try to meet. So that's really cool. And what I was saying, this need to connect, it's been a while since I felt it because of course, even if I don't meet with a lot of people here where I live, at work, they are not, most of them are not my friends, but you socialize quite a lot and that's good. But when you spend such long time without socializing, even people who are not that social need it, and it was a nice thing. So even if you don't like going to bars or meeting people in real life, just know that there are other options, and for me it was the apps. You also need to be a bit careful because of course my experience was great, and I guess I don't know if it's insensitive to say, but I'm a man and I feel like if something happens I can just fight back. But for some people maybe it's not that easy and it gets a bit scary. I don't know, in my case I feel like if something happens I'm able to just set my boundaries and just either leave or do whatever needs to be done. But I get it that for other people maybe it's not that easy, so you need to be really careful with that. And what I would say is, if you are in a place, if you're traveling solo, you want to meet someone, but maybe you have your doubts, just do it in a public space, in a place that you know that there's going to be more people, so it's kind of safe, and if something happens you can ask for help. But yeah, in my case I felt good, I felt confident enough. But I know that for some people it's not the same. It should be the same, it should be equal for everyone, but the sad reality is that it's not. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, I touched on this a little bit before, but I want to say it again because I feel like traveling alone is really empowering for absolutely everyone. Just the fact that you are able to choose yourself where do you want to go, and you are in a new place and you have absolute freedom to do whatever you want, and to, I don't know, it sounds really silly when I say it out loud, but this feeling of, okay, I'm in this new place that I've never been before on my own, and I get to choose where I want to go. I get to check if I prefer to go to this place or this other place. I don't know, there's something about it that is really empowering. And for the people that are a bit scared to do it, I would say just try, maybe not really far. Like I was saying before, I wouldn't go to maybe another continent for your first solo trip, but start. In my case, I'm from Europe, I'm from Spain. So I think my first solo trip was in Italy, and it happened accidentally. I was supposed to go with a friend, but the friend couldn't make it really last minute. So then I had to decide if I want to go solo or if I just cancel the whole thing. But in my case, there was this hotel that was already paid, the flights were already paid, of course. So I would have lost a lot of money, not a lot of money, but a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So I was kind of forced in a way to do this first solo trip because it was not the goal to go on your own, but it happened. And I remember I was quite young, maybe it was like 21, 22, because it was when I started working, so after college. And at the beginning it was quite scary, but after this first trip, again, I was kind of forced, I would say. But I'm really happy that I did it because this first solo trip allowed me to then go to lots of beautiful places and magical places. And finally, so that trip was like 2016, almost 10 years later, 8 years later, I was able to visit my dream country, my dream destination, Japan, going on my own, going solo. So I feel like this is really beautiful in a way because I came a long way to do this, and I'm really happy that I've done it. But now that I think about it, everything started on that moment when my friend canceled and she couldn't do the trip, and I decided to do it regardless. And this allowed me to now go to Japan, and I think this is really beautiful. So long story short, travel alone, don't be scared. If something happens, you will figure it out. And I guess disclaimer that in my case I feel safe doing all these things alone. But if you do not feel safe, if you do not feel comfortable, it's also fine. I guess it depends on the reasons why you are not doing it, because I have other friends that wanna travel on their own, but they are scared. I guess if you're scared of other people, it makes sense because I totally get it. But if you're scared of not being able to, I don't know, fly on your own, to book the hotels and all these logistics, if it's for those reasons, do it, travel on your own. If you're afraid of being in a place that you don't know, with people that you don't know, and maybe those people doing something to you, then I understand, and I know that every person is different and we all go through different journeys. But yeah, if you ask me, travel, do it, and don't wait for your friends to accept your plans. If you want to go somewhere, just do it. Of course, it's better, I guess, to travel with someone, with your friends. But if you really want to go somewhere, you ask your friends and they cannot make it, don't wait. At least this is my motto right now. Like, I want to do something, I will ask some people. If they cannot make it, I will do it on my own. Because if I have to wait for other people to do what I want to do, I wouldn't have done it, a lot of things that I've done. So don't wait, just do it. And I guess that's it. Again, I have this list of things. Probably I forgot. I will now stop recording and probably I will remember some of the things that I wanted to say, but I'm quite happy. So yeah, hope this helps, and see you on the next one. Oh, this.